Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Grace Baptist.
Shall we pray? Father in heaven, we thank you for the privilege to be in America. We thank you, Lord, that there was a time when those who saw the need for a great nation separated and founded on principles that would be lasting, principles found in the Word of God, that gave us now the freedom that we have today. Lord, we stand here today because of the gift that's been given to us. We pray, Lord, for wisdom. You said if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Lord, I pray that you would give wisdom to these who make decisions for our city. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. Here. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Charts. Here. Smith.
Here. We have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? Any discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
One
Motion by Mr. Allen.
item of discussion, I just want to point out that the amount of write-off that we had is the lowest amount we've had in the entire sheet that's on there, at least back to 1990 and 2000. So I guess to me that's great news for the citizens and city of Mitchell.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these items? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor or members of city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentation is limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered but no action will be taken. Anybody wish to address council at this time? I think you missed a week.
I did. I've been busy. Hi, Sonia Vanderwick, Mitchell Township. I just wanted to talk today about COVID, obviously, because what else do I come here for? That or 5G, right? And I'll probably come there again if you want to know about it. Anyway, the COVID-19 guidelines that you may not be aware of are the ones that are on the NIH website up until today, which was very interesting. They have a table here, which I think you should know about. They mention remdesivir, and then on the second one they mention ivermectin. So you can't find it now. I happen to have a copy. I had downloaded the PDF, but now they removed it because they don't want people to know that that is actually an approved treatment. But what goes along with that is the system that's through the Medicare for billing. They actually get an extra 20% if they do a COVID diagnosis and they give them remdesivir. So there's a huge financial gain for them to do that. Some stats I wanted to talk to you about. Gibraltar is the only country that has a 100% vaccination rate, and they have a very high infection rate right now. So the Omicron variant is probably from the vaccinated. So you guys have probably heard me talk about the vaccine adverse event reporting system. That's a passive system that they set up after they passed the 1986 law by Congress to exempt any pharmaceutical companies that make biologics or vaccines from any liability. So you can't sue them. So if you get a damage or you die or someone in your family dies, you have no recourse. There's been 927,740 cases reported to this network from the COVID shots. 927,740 in the past 11 months, out of the 1.7 million cases in the system that have been filed over the past 30 plus years. 52% of all the vaccine adverse cases in the VAERS network in the past 30 years have been reported in the last 11 months. Also, 68% of the deaths after the shot have been reported in VAERS over the last 30 years in the last 7 months. So this is on pace for 21,000 plus people dying from these shots, and they're not talking about it. They're still saying it's safe and effective. So far, there's been 19,532 deaths. 99,943 hospitalizations, 3,148 miscarriages, 9,746 heart attacks, which one of them is my sister-in-law. She wasn't going to take the shot. She got the shot in September, had a heart attack, is cardiomyopathy, and now her ejection fraction for her heart is 35%. I have 2 other family members that got the shot and now have new arrhythmias, heart arrhythmias. This isn't safe and effective. So why are we allowing this to be for our kids? And I'm here to plea for you guys to please do not give this to your kids. It will literally change them. It's experimental. And if you look at their likelihood of getting hurt by this, they're going to survive this 99.99999% of the time. But if they get this shot, they're more likely to have heart problems and other issues. So that's what I'm pleading with you. It's not safe and effective. It's experimental and life-threatening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Here's your chance, Terry. One thing I do want to bring up is the next 2 days, tomorrow and Wednesday, we will be doing some work here in council chambers on the Corn Palace preliminary work that's been going on. So if you're interested or public's interested, you can stop in and look at it. I believe 5 o'clock is the public input session.
Tuesday at 5.
At this chambers?
In this chamber.
No, but I'll be watching it on TV.
Okay, with nobody else have input, executive session, according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal. Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried into my chamber. We're out of executive session. Okay, item 9, hearing and action on approval of the following medical cannabis dispensary applications. Mr. Johnson. First one is BWD Mitchell LLC, received on 11/16/2021 at 9:01 a.m.
Okay. You might want to pull up a map in the application. Maybe just the map. All right, I'll try to keep things brief. And I know we're talking about the first applicant right now, but I'll just say that each of the applications that you've got before you tonight, they've all been reviewed by staff. They all appear to meet the application requirements, so we don't need to worry about any of them being incomplete at this point. So we'll kind of just focus the discussion on each individual location. So the first application that you've got in front of you tonight is from BWD Mitchell LLC. Their proposed location.
I have no idea if I'm there, Justin. Oh, I'm on Havens, I got a ways to go yet.
Yep, just a little bit more, there you go. So their proposed location is 1400 South Burr, which is the current Runnings building that they'll be leaving to go across the street. The dispensary would be located in the top left portion of that building. They did provide a site plan which showed that they would meet the requirements of our code for the secured entrance and exits. Their materials covered all of the other requirements of our ordinance as far as security, signage, odor control, all of the various points. So I guess unless there's any questions from council, I think that's probably all I need to say.
Do we need to take action on each individual application?
Yes, I would recommend that you take action on each item individually.
Well, I'll move approval then of BWD Mitchell LLC.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice.
If you recall, the same as our first applicant, we did have recommendations that those be on condition that they complete the building permit process and complete the fire inspection before they would go into effect, and that it would be for calendar year 2022.
Did you hear all that in the motion?
I'm pretty sure I heard Susan say that, too.
Okay, very good. And further discussion on this? Anybody nice wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. DLJ LLC received on 11/16/2021 at 5:02 p.m.
All right, for this application, like I said before, it does meet all of the application requirements. This one would be located at, I believe it's 501 East Juniper, which would be this parcel and building right here. Really, the only thing to note on this one is that, given your action on the prior dispensary, this one is going to require a variance because it would be within 1,000 feet of the property of another dispensary. So I think in our preliminary discussions, and this would apply to the following applications that also have conditional use and variance components, what I'm recommending is that we table approval of this tonight, have them proceed through the variance or conditional use process, and then have them come back for final approval once that process is done.
This one would be just a variance for
And this
the
one-
distance, correct?
Correct. This one is just a variance for the distance to another dispensary.
And in our ordinance, the right-of-way between these property lines is excluded, so
Correct.
all the
So-
distance across the road, that crosses the road basically is zero. So
Correct.
this is
So-
less than 1,000 feet then.
Right. Yep. this location would be less than 1,000 feet. You got to remember that the Burr Street the Burr Street right-of-way there is much wider than your traditional right-of-way, and you're also crossing it at a pretty steep angle, so there's a significant portion of that distance that does not count.
Had the runnings not been approved, this one would have met all criteria. So, and them not knowing that runnings was an option to be approved, it just happens to be the order in which they came in, so it would go to planning and zoning.
Move to table. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? What's that?
Is there any questions at all?
So maybe, Justin, you can kind of just go through what it has to go to planning and zoning, but you first have to publish it.
Yes.
And maybe just give us a general idea of when it probably would come back to council.
Yeah, so there are some notice and publication that we'll have to do ahead of time. I believe we'd be on schedule to have this heard by Planning Commission on January 10th, and then it would come back to council for final action on both the variance and the application on, I believe it's January 18th, because we've got a Monday holiday there.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Genesis Farm LLC received on 11/18/2021 at 4:22 p.m.
All right, so this one is a similar situation. All the application materials are complete. There's nothing that we would need them to supplement at this point. This location is downtown, so give me just a second to get my bearings here. Getting closer. Fifth, and, okay. Found it. So it would be in this building at 501, is that right? 501 North Main?
I think 504.
106, sorry, 106 West Fifth, because we're on Fifth. I lost my mouse now. There we go. All right. So it would be in the far west unit in this, on this property. As I said, the application materials are good. The two interesting points on this one is that it is central business district, not highway business like the other applications. Because it's central business, it does require a conditional use permit, so it does need to go to Planning Commission on that point. In addition, it does need a variance for being within 300 feet of two churches. And the first one would be kitty corner across the intersection, which is the
Word of life.
Word of Life, or don't have it pulled up on my other screen now, but that would be a church building there. And also in the old Moonlight, there's also a church in that building. So both of those would be within 300 feet, so this application would require a conditional use as to both of those properties.
That would be variance for those.
Or excuse me, the variance for those, and then the conditional use for being central business.
Okay.
Motion to table.
Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion?
I'll be abstaining due to the applicants.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody else want to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Abstain.
One abstention. Item B, or number 4, FSST Farms LLC, received on 11/22/2021 at 4:30 p.m.
Okay, so heading back down towards the interstate now. And once again,
Pattern.
application was complete. We would not require any additional supplemental materials at this time. The location for this one would be in the Visitor Center building, right off the, maybe it wants to pop in the good map, maybe not. Anyway, it'd be in the Visitor Center building right next to the off-ramp, same building as Einstein Bagels, Anytime Fitness, a couple other businesses. They would be in the far southeast portion of that building. Two things to note with this application is, once again, they are going to end up being within 1,000 feet of the dispensary that's going into the Runnings location. That's measured property line to property line, and it's actually just over that if you measure, it's about 1,012 feet, I believe, but you have to remove the 66 feet of right-of-way for Norway Avenue, so they are actually about 950 or something in that neighborhood from the nearest dispensary. As was pointed out earlier, they would not have known of the other dispensary being proposed for that location when they submitted their application. In addition to the variance for the distance to another dispensary, we also have an odd issue here with the distance to MTI. So if you measure property line to property line, you go from this corner down to this corner of MTI, which is about 1,700 feet, probably a little bit more than that. So they're well over the 300 feet that they would need to be for our ordinance. But the problem is everything in between the school and that location is basically interstate right-of-way, which does not count towards their distance.
Our ordinance is 1,000 feet for schools though, right?
The state's is 1,000 feet for schools, but they only apply that to K through 12.
Okay, thank you.
So technically, they need 300 feet. They only have a small sliver right next to the property where there's a small portion that goes around the edge. So that they would need to request a variance for that portion of the application for technically being too close to MTI.
Move to table.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further
And so they would end up with, at planning and zoning, with two variance requests.
Right.
One for each.
Yep, so this one would need the two requests for the variance, one for being too close to the school, one for being too close to another dispensary.
Okay.
Okay. Further discussion?
And I think we wanted to mention that I think the discussion was that at this point, they all maintain their place in queue in terms of when their applications were received, even though they're being tabled at this point. They're all-
Right, at this point, and that's a council decision, but at this point, we would treat them as though they're maintaining the same position that they were submitted in.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve application for renewal of alcohol licenses. I believe this one is for the lake house, correct? Which was tabled due to insufficient information last time. PD, I don't, any issues with it?
We have no objections.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve new vehicle for hire company application. EJ's Party Bus LLC. Mr. Johnson, are you speaking to this?
I don't believe so.
Or does Cindy want it?
It's on regular agenda just because it's a new license. The other ones were approved on consent. Yep, so this is a brand-new license, so we put it on regular. And they cannot attend the meeting tonight. They are both sick, so.
Motion
Second.
by Mr. Rice, second by
Second.
Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve access by private road from Dan Rue.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Joe Schrader, Public Works Director. Dan Rue is requesting approval to obtain a building permit for a single-family dwelling prior to the completion of Woods Circle, which is shown on the screen. The unimproved portion of Woods Circle, it's roughly 240 feet. By the picture on the screen, you can see basically the road from where the pavement ends to the red is where his future lots will be. He is requesting that portion to be a private road. It's noted that the city will not do any maintenance on that road or push snow, as it is an unimproved right-of-way. The current owner of the development is Grownway Construction. He is planning to contract with Grownway Construction to build a home. Grownway Construction has verbally told us he plans to finish that development next summer. It's just been verbally, nothing has been approved yet, and he has not brought a plan to Planning Commission yet. We have no objections to approval.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2021-58, ARPA grant from the South Dakota Humanities Council in the amount of $15,340. This is for the library. Oh, here he comes.
Hey,
Matt.
okay.
Mr. Kenkel.
Hello, Kevin Kenkel, Library Director. Mitchell Public Library applied for a second ARPA grant through the South Dakota Humanities Council, and we were approved for $15,304. This is a non-matching grant, so we will be adding more technology to the library. So, any questions?
Okay, very good.
Great. Moved approved.
Move to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Jerks,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion?
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2021-59, developer agreement for KID number 26.
So this would be the developer's agreement in relation to the downtown TIF that was just passed probably a month or two by now. It's in relation to the old Crafty Fox building at 223 North Main. We've kind of gone through all the details on that before, so I won't go back into it. But basically, this agreement just lays out some of the terms that we'd be making the pass-through payments on that tax increment. So just there to try to create some accountability and some checkoffs to getting that money spent.
Motion to approve. Motion by Mr. Savers. Second. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Shaking your head no, huh, Jerry?
Formality, hopefully?
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2021-79, plat of Singapore Slab Track 1, a subdivision of the east half of the southeast quarter of Section 32, Township 104 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Primary Indian, Davis County, South Dakota, as requested by P&B Casey Farms LLC. Mr. Jenigas.
Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. It is just outside the county, or excuse me, outside the city limit. So the county will hear this on the 7th and on the 14th as well. It's 25 acres that they will be selling to someone. If you recall, a couple meetings ago, there was lots 2 and 3, irregular lots 2 and 3 that were with us as well. That vacates lots 2 and irregular track 1. So lot 3 is still out there, and so is lot 1, but irregular track 1 is gone, and so are lot 2. There's no issues from planning, zoning, or public works on this one.
Any idea why it's called the Singapore slab? I mean, it's rather exotic.
I do not know the answer to that question. Mr. Eliason was at the first meeting, and no one asked that question, so it never got answered.
Well, in that case, I'll move approval.
You're making a motion. Motion by Mrs. Chark.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2021-82, dissolving tax increment district number 11. Mrs. Bath.
This TIF has been paid in full, so any remaining funds will be sent back to the county to be redistributed to the taxing entities. This was the Hunt TIF. It was
Down by Pat.
by Patzers, yeah, in that area.
That area.
It actually went
Steel
into
manufacturing.
bankruptcy at one point, I believe.
Steel.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. McCardle.
Do we have any idea about what this generated over its life?
Since 2012, when it went into bankruptcy, I believe, since then it was $174,000 is what was still owed on it. So we're getting about $18,000 a year right now in TIF funds.
And it was established in 2008, so it's clearly paid off early as well, earlier than what would have been forecasted at 2028.
Okay.
Further discussion? It wasn't terrible, but it's over now.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2021-83, a resolution approving the 2022 compensation plan for the city of Mitchell. Mrs. Elwine.
I was just trying to decide if I should pull up the staff report or the full resolution. Enclosed in your packet was a compensation plan for 2022. The resolution authorizes that plan. The resolution or the wages that are shown or the ranges are what was used for the 2022 budget. It also lists the number of authorized positions for each of those departments. The 2021 salary ranges were increased by 3.25%, which was negotiated with the city's 3 unions, and it included in the 2022 budget. In addition to the increase to the ranges, employees are also eligible for a performance-based step increase based on the performance in the position. Council did ask that I break out that cost increase during the budget process, so I have that listed. The budget is $424,706 higher in 22 than 21. Of that increase, $254,580 was due to the increase in the ranges. The remaining $170,, $126 was due to budgeted performance-based step increases. It's never a straight 3.25% because you have changes in position, so you might have someone leaving a position who's higher coming in lower. So I don't have any other, comments to make there. There's one change on the plan from last year, and that would be that the code enforcement officer would be removed in 2022, and we would be adding a certified officer to cover those duties as code enforcement in the police department. So that's how that position would be advertised. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
This is the last year of the agreement with the union, correct?
Yep, I start negotiations next year for another contract. So this is the last of a 3-year agreement with all 3 unions.
Let the fun begin.
Move approval.
Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrington.
And I just want to say thanks for breaking that out. I have an interest in that, kind of knowing that, make sure the public knows that every year our payroll, well, in this case, went up $424,000, so we have to cover that with growth somehow, and to make sure that we know that that's an ongoing expense.
I actually added it to my fund overview sheet for future budgets, so I'll always have that in there for you now, moving forward.
Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2021-84, resolution setting city fees and charges. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this resolution is increasing the smart meter penalty from $100 to $200. There are currently less than 10 meters in the city that are not smart meters. Smart meters read through radio, which doesn't require a physical reading. Water consumption can be tracked daily through water billing, and this can allow the city to detect leaks over time. Currently, we have to go to those residences to do a reading with a remote outside the structure.
So Joe, remind me of the 9 or 10, whatever that's left, then how do you actually read those meters?
We have to go to the address, and then there's a remote on the outside of the house that we can look at that basically gives us the reading from the meter.
Right.
There's one meter that the remote's not working, and we cannot gain access to the house, nor can we do a shut-off at that residence, so.
Right. So it's safe to say that it takes away from a productive day
Certainly.
in order for this to
Yep.
happen. And is this fee is an annual fee, the penalty?
I believe it's monthly.
It's $200 monthly, and they're paying it, or 100 right now. It's 100, and they're paying it.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, if this don't do it, next year we can go to 500?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we should go up more this year, because we're taking our people out, and for.
Are the houses spread apart across town? Are they?
Yeah,
Are they houses or
They're not
businesses?
10. Yeah,
it's
that's-
houses, residents.
They're actually residents.
It's entirely up to you guys, but I have instructed Mr. Schrader that if it doesn't change in this year, we'll double it again next year.
Fair enough.
I would assume we would cover costs with this additional upgrade, so we're not doing what Jeff is saying. Just the proper work done that we do instead of running around chasing the house.
It would be nice to
We're not
get them,
losing money.
it would be nice to get it all switched out, but
Yes.
for some reason, they're holding out, so. At some point, they'll want to change over, I would hope.
And they're
Right.
not delinquent, they pay the bill.
I would say let's revisit it in 6 months.
Okay?
That would be my
Schrader, put that on
recommendation.
your calendar, we're going to revisit it again in 6 months.
Will do.
Move to approve with a 6-month review.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? I guess you're the only one. You want to talk about it?
I the only one in the audience?
Yeah, I think so.
We're glad you stayed to the bitter end.
Do I understand this has to do with remote reading of meters, water meters?
Correct.
And what does that accomplish?
Well, right now, all but 10 houses or residences in the city have a meter that gets read remotely via computer. These 10, we have to send somebody out to physically read, because they won't change them over.
So what are you reading when you read that meter?
The water usage.
Do I have one?
You have a remote.
I can't say for certain. If there's only 10 left in the city, I would imagine you're on a smart meter.
Well, what I'm curious about is, I was out of town and it took 4.5 days before anybody found out that my water was running. I had 41,000 gallons of water come out of my upstairs bathroom before they shut the water off. I got home from Texas, and there was a sign on the door that says, "We shut your water off because of excessive water use." And I had them print out the May and June water usage on a graph, and you can see exactly at 8 o'clock when that pipe broke in my bathroom, and it ran for 4.5 days before anybody shut the water off.
We'll look into that.
And I was told, well, you used the water, so you have to pay for the water. But I didn't have to pay for the sewer because it was clean water. But it was 41,000 gallons of water went out of my upstairs bathroom through my house and took out my whole house the last week of May. When I came home about the 26th of May, there was a sign on my door that said, well, we can't read all the meters. And I was
Well, they
just
do
kind of,
read it, most of them are read remotely by a computer, but
well, that's just kind
unless, I guess, I'm not 100% sure how that.
What's supposed to happen?
So, Michelle Bathke, correct me if I'm wrong, but our smart meters do not alert us of the high water usage. They have to be manual, those issues have to be manually found.
Michelle DeVries can go in and look in the system.
So that once that was discovered and determined, then we sent our crews out to investigate, and we ended up shutting the water off because they weren't home.
so what I'm curious about, all it does is just check your monthly usage? So you don't,
Right. In other words, every month, instead of having somebody walk around or multiple people walk around and read meters,
yeah,
it's read remotely, it goes to a tower and relays to a computer.
just to get your total for the month?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because somebody found it someplace along the line.
That was probably an employee just in the office who just happened to
happened to
notice that there was a lot of usage, and they probably called Public Works to go check it out.
Well, that's what I was curious about, because I thought, well, if they found it one day, why did
I only know because they happened to find my sprinkler leaking too after 2 weeks, so.
The thing about why I asked that is because my son is on rural water down at Canton, and he was working at Butler in Sioux Falls, and the next morning, they said, you have a leak overnight, 1.8 gallons an hour. So he lost 20 gallons of water, and rural water caught it and emailed him while he was at work for 20 gallons. And it was 41,000 gallons before I found mine. So I was just curious, I mean, since you asked if there's anybody had any questions.
Joe, I thought when we put this together years ago with Terry, that there would be an alert go out.
Wouldn't there be, shouldn't there be?
I'm asking Joe that question.
I'm sure there's a cost added to the software, and I don't know. We'll look into it. We will.
Yeah,
look into
because
it.
I thought we did too. When we did these things.
I've gotten at least 5 to 10 alerts from Michelle DeVries that, hey, you gotta, and I don't know how long it takes for the departments, hey, you got excessive water being used, and then I gotta go start checking, and she sends me an email.
Yeah.
But it could have been going on for a week.
Sure. Now, look into it, Joe, what we passed when we decided to do these, because I was under the assumption too, we had the alerts. I was also one of those that learned the hard way. My basement flooded because I didn't turn the hose off outside and decided to put it in the window well. But anyway, it's irrelevant to the matter here. So, went over the weekend.
Well,
But anyway, the alert thing is, if we don't have them, which it sounds like we don't, I wouldn't mind us taking a look at it, because automatic alert when there's a overage of usage of water, I wouldn't mind us taking a look at what that might be or cost to do that upgrade, because that was one of the big benefits of why I was so adamant about moving forward to this, to help this situation happen and save 41,000 gallons of water, which ain't good for him, but not good for anybody to have that much water pumped through, so.
We'll look into it.
Before you leave the podium, I've got a question for you.
yeah.
Still praying for us?
Yes, I do.
You were up here about 5 years ago, and you said you pray for us almost daily, so keep it up.
It's I'll tell you, I pray for the city council on Tuesdays, for the government people on Tuesdays, because for missionaries on Monday, that's easy. The saints in my church on Sunday, that's easy to remember. Worship centers on Wednesday, and I pray for the tax tyrants on Tuesday.
Must be talking about you, 7.
That's a good answer.
I like it, thank you.
Now I remember it.
And you got your answer.
You had to bring that up. Thank you.
We appreciate him regardless of why he's praying.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading on ordinance O 2021-14, amending emergency powers of the mayor.
All right.
More on this, Mr. Johnson?
I'll go real quick this time. This is just a simple change to comply with state law. All it does is remove one word from one ordinance. It's in relation to firearms and the use of the mayor's emergency powers. So all it does is remove that one word from one section of that ordinance.
Move to approve second reading.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? It's still on. None of you staff want to. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charks. Smith.
Aye.
Savers. Rice. Gosher. McCardle.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2021-16, supplemental appropriations. Ms. Elwine.
I'm just trying to find my mouse, hold on. Where is it?
Right there.
Oh, thank you. I don't know where it goes at times, sorry. The enclosed ordinance is for end-of-the-year supplemental appropriations for a few items, and I'll walk through those on the first reading. You'll have the second reading at the next council meeting. The first one is out of the general fund. We have designated cash for maintenance of the Veterans Park. So we just do that at the end of the year when we know how much is actually spent. And Michelle only undesignates the amount that's actually spent for the year out of the reserve funds. Culture and recreation, same kind of thing with sports and authority promotion, which is our SEA. We put a budget amount in there. They're going to need they spent more than what the budget was this year, but they have plenty of funds in their designated cash to cover those costs. So this is just taking that budget authority out of the designated cash for that item. And then out of the special revenue funds, we have the park and recreation, we have a sports complex for the artificial turf. The reason why this is being done as a supplement is because we will be doing a contingency transfer at the next meeting that will take the cash from the general fund and put it into park and rec. This is going to move that budget authority for them to spend the money that's now in their fund. Otherwise, we would have had to do 2 contingency transfers for $411,000, which wouldn't work. So you'll see a contingency transfer at the next meeting to transfer the cash from general fund into park and rec. This is just giving them the budget authority with that cash to purchase the turf.
Do we have an update on the
I do.
status of that?
I just met with park and rec staff this morning, and I'm going to look at my notes here.
Because I know it was supply chain.
No, yeah, they've got half of it done, or half of it paid, excuse me. He said, this is the scoreboards, hold on. He was telling me that they are 21 to 22. They said by April 30th?
I think everything's ready to go, but
By April 30th.
they're waiting
Yep.
on the turf.
But they're supposed to have the turf to the person who installs it in the next couple weeks. They said even by Christmas. So they should be able to come in at the time when they can get so many days of 40 and above to get it installed. So it sounds like it's going to be there in the spring. We've only paid for half the cost, so you'll probably see this next year as another supplement, just so that they can have the spending authority to finish the cost of that.
That's encouraging because it was out till like March.
Yeah, he said it's in,
So
or they're supposed to be, and I should clarify that. He said that the supplier said they're supposed to have it on site, so, whether it really gets there when they are told it's going to be there is still always up to see what happens, I guess. But they anticipate having it done in the spring. The entertainment tax fund, this is to fund our Corn Palace remodeling study that's being done right now. Yep, and tomorrow night at 5 o'clock is the public input session. This is coming from the entertainment tax cash reserves from the additional revenue that was received this year above what was budgeted. So the funds are there to support it. E911, we had 2 items. The first one was $7,000 to purchase a storage rack for handheld radios. They actually got grant money in 2020 for this item, so it's really just taking that grant money and giving them the ability to purchase the storage rack. The second item is we learned of an issue that we had with a repeater that was located on the west water tower. There's too much interference and noise that was causing some problems, and it's our backup analog system. So they are moving that over here to the tower that we have, and that's coming out of the existing cash reserves. Nutrition fund, that is coming out of the nutrition fund reserves. That's to replace a door or repair a door that was not functioning over at JVCC. And the last one, the Main Street revolving loan fund, that's just giving the budget authority so we can transfer that cash back into general fund, which a portion of that was used to fund Main Street and Beyond in 2022. So you got to have the budget authority to transfer the cash. And yeah, so then you will not see it on any future reports after December 31st. So, and that is all of them. So I can answer any questions that you have, and you'll have second reading at the next meeting.
Move to place on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody want to address it from the audience? Not out there. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries for adjournment.